Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. Nestled on the outskirts of a small town in southern Indiana, the Caldwell family home stood in quiet repose, its peeling white paint and sagging porch a stark reminder of better days. The homestead, once filled with laughter and warmth, had become a site of pervasive grief following the tragic events that unfolded within its walls. On a crisp autumn morning in 2020, the serenity of that sleepy neighborhood was shattered. All was still for a fleeting moment until the piercing wail of sirens cut through the calm, summoning neighbors out of their slumber. Just days prior, Melissa Caldwell, a devoted mother of 3, had gone missing. Concern crept into the hearts of those who knew her and quickly morphed into fear. The community rallied together, plastering flyers with her smiling face around the town. However, as the days turned into weeks, hope began to dissipate like the vibrant fall leaves scattered across the ground. In the glow of the morning sun, police officers cordoned off the property, their expressions steely yet somber. They carefully navigated the surroundings, methodically searching for any clues that could guide them through the chilling void left by her disappearance. Yet, as they crossed over to the back of the property, the air grew heavier, pregnant with unspoken dread. The faint echoes of laughter that once filled the home had been replaced by the oppressive silence that now told a different story. Curiosity simmered and festered among the townsfolk, who exchanged whispers of conspiracy and suspicion. In a matter of hours, the Caldwell home transformed into a focal point of intrigue, as shadows loomed large over the fragile sense of safety in the community. Just what had happened to Melissa Caldwell? The victim. Melissa Caldwell had always been a beacon of light in her community. Known for her infectious laughter and caring nature, she had a radiant smile that could lift the heaviest of hearts. Friends often remarked on her unwavering commitment to family, as she tirelessly balanced work as a nurse while raising her 3 young children. To the townsfolk, she was not just a mother, she was a friend, a confidante, and an inspiration. Growing up in a neighboring town, Melissa had been a curious child, always seeking out new adventures and opportunities to lend a helping hand. Those who knew her fondly recounted tales of her volunteer work at local shelters and the countless hours she dedicated to mentoring troubled youth. When news of her disappearance spread, it felt like a cruel twist of fate for a woman whose life revolved around helping others. As the investigation unfolded, detectives sifted through her life, examining the relationships and connections that had shaped her world. Questions began to arise. Was there something darker beneath her cheerful surface? Her closest friends described her life as busy but happy. Yet whispers. Eric? Eric, just days before she disappeared, an unsettling detail that felt. The more detectives learned about Melissa, the more confounding her absence became. A figure so deeply rooted in the community, who had vanished without a trace, left behind a growing swell of anxiety, suspicion, and heartbreak. Was there someone out there who wanted to hurt her? Or was this a tragic accident? With each passing hour, the question lingered, sending ripples of fear throughout the town. The crime scene. As evening descended on the Caldwell home, The soft amber glow of floodlights bathed the property in an eerie illumination. The police cordoned off the area with twinkling blue and red tape, creating a barrier between the disquieting reality inside the house and the growing crowd of onlookers gathering outside. Investigators moved methodically, wearing booties over their shoes to preserve the integrity of the crime scene. Each step was taken with purpose, as if walking on hallowed ground. The muted rustle of leaves filled the air as detectives entered the home, their flashlights cutting through the oppressive dimness. The familiar scent of homey, a combination of baking cookies and warm laundry, was suffocated by a different smell, one that hinted at chaos and despair. It was an unsettling reminder that this was not just a cozy family residence, but now a site of profound tragedy. They found her purse on the kitchen counter, still containing her phone, wallet, and identification. Odd sight, given that family members usually kept their belongings nearby. As they continued their search, the living room revealed its secrets. With furniture hastily pushed aside, and a shattered vase sprawled across the hardwood floor, indications of a struggle were evident, sending chills down the spines of the investigators. It appeared Melissa had fought fiercely for her life. Outside, the tension thickened among the gathering crowd. Neighbors who had only days earlier hugged her at bake sales now stood in hushed disbelief, jaws clenched and eyes wide in fear of the unknown. They could only imagine the horrors that had taken place within those walls, picturing the vibrant mother they adored becoming a victim of unfathomable violence. Each discovery inside the home heightened the sense of urgency. They were racing against time to uncover the truth behind Melissa Caldwell's disappearance. With every new piece of evidence collected, the threads of the mystery slowly began to weave together, urging them closer to an answer. The early investigation. With the chilling discovery inside the Caldwell home, the investigation transitioned into high gear. Detectives at the scene turned their attention to potential witnesses, pooling the community to gather any scrap of information that could shine light on Melissa's last day. They canvassed the neighborhood, knocking on doors and asking residents to recall anything out of the ordinary late-night noises, unfamiliar vehicles, or strange individuals lurking about. The inquiries began to paint a portrait of a woman surrounded by both love and whispers of tension. Officers on the ground pursued leads that emerged from the community canvas. A neighbor had mentioned seeing Melissa arguing with a man in a dark vehicle the evening before she vanished. Though the account was vague, it lit a spark of intrigue among investigators. They worked tirelessly to obtain security footage from surrounding homes, muscles taut as they replayed the hours leading to her disappearance, hoping for a glimmer of something, a fleeting glimpse that might lead them to her whereabouts. As interviews progressed, a shadow loomed over Eric Caldwell, Melissa's husband. He sat patiently in the police station, the weight of the situation etched on his face, eyes darting as he faced questions from detectives. Each answer he provided was scrutinized, dissected, and compared against a growing list of inconsistencies. What seemed like an earnest plea for help began to appear less genuine as investigators noted his nervous habits, fidgeting fingers, evasive glances, and contradictory statements about their last communication. Eric insisted that everything was fine, yet whispers of domestic strife began to swirl through the community, merging with the growing inquiries. Detectives were cautious, knowing that as early as this stage, assumptions could lead to disastrous conclusions. They knew they had to tread carefully around a husband clearly afflicted by fear and confusion, while recognizing the possibility that his connection to Melissa might veer toward darkness. The questions mounted while the clock continued to tick, a sense of urgency fueling their every move. The unraveling mystery of Melissa Caldwell loomed over the entire town, binding them together in concern. The dead ends. Days turned into weeks, and as the investigation progressed, it became painfully evident that leads were dwindling. The flurry of initial excitement began to diminish, replaced by a bleak sense of frustration. A heavily packed folder filled with interviews, timelines, and witness statements lay sprawled on Detective Harris's desk. Each day blurred into the next, each dead end gnawing at the team's resolve. Despite the reports of a man seen near the Caldwell home, extensive surveillance on local residences produced no additional sightings. Investigators reached out to local businesses to review their footage. Stations, grocery stores, even convenience stores, but the unyielding nature of time had rendered the evidence elusive. The security cameras had offered no solid leads, leaving the detectives in a lurch and forcing them to reassess their initial theory. Eric Caldwell had provided a firm alibi, bolstered by his colleagues at the manufacturing plant where he worked. However, in the quiet corners of the investigation room, whispers about his demeanor were impossible to ignore. The more investigators probed into his life, the more questions surfaced regarding spending patterns, a suspicious withdrawal of cash just before Melissa's disappearance, and the timing of late-night phone calls. Yet, no hard evidence pointed conclusively towards foul play. As the search for Melissa became an exercise in tedium and heartache, volunteer efforts around the town waned. The frantic search parties that once roamed the trails and woods grew smaller each weekend, replaced by an air of resignation. Our community, once galvanized by hope, fatigue began to seep into the cracks of shared determination, leaving behind a haunting sense of powerlessness. As each dead end emerged, the detectives were left grappling, not only with the case, but also with their own despair. Would they ever uncover what had happened to Melissa Caldwell? Or was the truth destined to remain buried, lost in the shadows of a mystery slowly fading from memory? A break in the case, just as the shadows of exhaustion threatened to swallow the investigation whole. An unexpected breakthrough rippled through the police department like a jolt of electricity. A local handyman, by sheer chance, reported a recent encounter with a woman resembling Melissa in a questionable part of town. She had seemed disoriented, wandering the streets with a blank stare, her clothes slightly disheveled. This lead was minor, yet it ignited a new spark of hope in a downtrodden investigation team. Detectives Harris and Thompson quickly arranged to meet with the handyman, their minds racing with possibilities. They learned that he was working on a derelict house renovation a few blocks away when he spotted her. He recalled a fleeting glimpse of her face, etched in his mind as she seemed to plead for help before disappearing down an alleyway. The details, while murky, were enough to pique their interest. Equipped with this new information, the detectives tirelessly retraced the alleyway and combed through the surrounding area, canvassing businesses and residents with renewed purpose. Their efforts bore fruit when they uncovered CCTV footage from an old corner store, showing a woman matching Melissa's description entering the vicinity shortly after the handyman had spotted her. This evidence was more than just a faint flicker of hope. It was tangible proof that they were still in pursuit of a living victim rather than a mere cold case. With this new lead, the detectives shifted gears, launching a search that extended into the nearby woodland area, often inhabited by transient individuals. They contacted local charities and shelters, circulating Melissa's image once more to see if anyone had witnessed or interacted with her. As adrenaline coursed through them, Their hearts raced at the prospect of finding her alive. The specter of doubt began to lift, fueling a sense of urgency that had been lacking for far too long. Hope returned to the community, and Melissa's name buzzed anew on the lips of concerned townsfolk. Each pulse of excitement amplifying the belief that perhaps their efforts were not in vain after all. The suspect. With a renewed focus on the alley where the handyman had last spotted a woman resembling Melissa, detectives cast a wider net, not only searching for her, but also digging deeper into the fabric of the community. As they sifted through witness testimonies and combed through surveillance footage, one name kept re-emerging in their discussions: a man known locally as Jake, a transient who frequented area shelters and had recently been seen hanging around the vicinity of the Caldwell home. Jake had a history of erratic behavior and had been in and out of the legal system for various charges related to petty theft and trespassing. While he had not previously been connected to any violent crimes, the timing of his whereabouts sent chills down the spines of investigators. It was easy to dismiss him initially, but as interviews continued, their unease grew. Several witnesses had reported seeing him arguing with someone fitting Melissa's description days before she vanished. Detectives decided it was time to bring him in for question. When Jake arrived at the station, he wore a tattered hoodie and sported an unkempt beard. His demeanor was fluctuating, shifting from confused to defensive at a moment's notice. As detectives probed, he became increasingly agitated, stuttering through his responses, his eyes darting nervously towards the exit. Jake claimed he had only spoken to Melissa briefly, but inconsistencies began to emerge in his narrative. He artfully dodged questions regarding his whereabouts the night she disappeared, and insisted he wasn't the man who had been lingering around her home. As the hours wore on, his stories unraveled like a poorly stitched seam, leaving detectives with a lingering question. Was Jake merely a frightened witness, or had he stepped into a much darker role in the unfolding saga surrounding Melissa Caldwell's disappearance? The weight of that uncertainty felt palpable in the air, as the case morphed from a simple investigation into a labyrinthine hunt for the truth. With Jake firmly in their sights, the detectives knew they had to tread carefully. Instincts told them he was a pivotal piece in the puzzle, but whether that piece fit a picture of innocence or guilt remained frustratingly unclear. The trial. Months passed, and the once quiet small town became the epicenter of a gripping narrative as the trial of Jake Thompson commenced. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation, citizens filling the seats, eager to witness the unraveling of a case that had gripped their lives. The air was heavy with the weight of hope, anxiety, and the flickering flame of justice for Melissa Caldwell. From the outset, the prosecution presented a narrative grounded in the timeline that developed leading up to Melissa's disappearance. They described Jake's erratic behavior and highlighted witness accounts that placed him in the vicinity of her home, painting him as a menacing figure whose background hinted at a propensity for trouble. Evidence was laid bare: fragmented statements, blurry security footage, and details of Jake's previous encounters with law enforcement that seemed to signify a pattern of instability. The defense, however, crafted a narrative of a man down on his luck, one who had merely found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time. They framed Jake as a victim of circumstance, an unfortunate scapegoat caught in the wake of a tragic event. They capitalized on his lack of a violent history and sought to discredit the unsubstantiated testimony of witnesses, stressing the need for reasonable doubt. Families filled the pews, the atmosphere a mix of sadness and simmering tension. The Caldwell family sat together, their hearts heavy with hope yet shadowed by despair. Each day brought fresh waves of emotions, the cycle of grief intertwining with the hope that the truth would emerge, however painful. As the trial unfolded, the public was engulfed in every twist and turn, captivated by what lay behind each witness stand. Yet, amidst the emotional turbulence, lingering questions continued to plague the Caldwell family. Where was Melissa? Was she still alive, or had the case taken a darker turn that could never be unraveled? The trial was more than a legal proceeding. It was a collective search for closure, a desperate plea for answers to bring peace to troubled hearts. As the final arguments approached, the courtroom fell into an almost subdued silence, anticipation mingling with anxiety. Community waiting on the edge for a verdict that would ripple far beyond the four walls of the courthouse. The aftermath. The gavel echoed through the courtroom, signaling the end of the trial and a moment suspended in time. As the verdict was guilty of abduction but not murder, an electric cacophony of emotion erupted. While the weight of justice shifted, the air buzzed with mixed feelings. Relief, sorrow, anger, and confusion danced in an unsettling rhythm. Jake Thompson's fate was sealed, but the mystery of Melissa Caldwell's whereabouts remained untouched, an agonizing enigma that hung over the community like an unshakable fog. In the weeks that followed, the town found itself grappling with the aftermath of the trial. Citizens exchanged whispered conversations in coffee shops, wrestling with the knowledge that justice had been served for the crime of abduction, but at a steep price. An unrelenting void remained. Melissa's absence colored daily life with hues of uncertainty and despair. The search for her continued, led by devoted friends and family who refused to let her memory fade into obscurity. Memorials emerged, adorned with flowers, photos, and heartfelt notes. The Caldwell family attended each gathering, their grief palpable but mingling with an unwavering determination not to let the world forget their beloved Melissa. Community walks in her honor sought to illuminate hope amidst darkness, but the pain of loss lingered, reminding them of the fragility of life and the sinister undercurrents that can easily disrupt tranquility. The investigation into her disappearance shifted gears, now fueled by the prospect of a future that held both promise and heartache. With leads dwindling, investigative efforts had transitioned from public searches to a more subdued approach of quietly seeking information through continued outreach. Tips came in occasionally from anonymous sources or rumors shared over a late-night drink, but nothing solid materialized to confirm her fate. As the seasons turned, the town found solace in shared memories and the warmth of community. Piecing together fragments of hope, they clung to the belief that Melissa might still be out there, somewhere waiting to be found. Yet in the recesses of their minds, a harsh reality loomed. What if she never returned? With the ghosts of their questions trailing behind them, the Caldwell family pressed on, defined by their love for Melissa, but forever altered by the dark shadows that entered their lives. Reflection. As the nights grew longer and the chill of winter settled into the town, Melissa Caldwell's haunting absence lingered in the hearts and minds of those who loved her. The sound of laughter that was once a regular echo in the homes of her family and friends had been replaced by quieter, softer tones of reflection, a gentle reminder of the joy and warmth she had brought into their lives. In the solitude of her bedroom, family members gathered, sharing stories of Melissa's life, the moments of joy, the challenges she faced, and her relentless love for her children. Each memory they exchanged wove a tapestry of who she was, a multifaceted woman, deeply flawed yet fiercely loving, who had touched so many lives. To speak her name was to breathe life back into her memory, anchoring them against the bleak uncertainty that had engulfed their world. Conversations pivoted around the love she had given and the lessons she had imparted about kindness, compassion, and resilience in the face of adversity. Friends came together for a vigil, candles flickering against the night, illuminating the profound connections forged in grief and hope. They stood shoulder to shoulder, unified in their collective mission to keep her memory alive. This period of reflection became a rallying call for awareness around missing persons, urging the community to remain vigilant and united in their efforts to prevent such tragedy. As they honored Melissa, they accepted the complexities of their emotions, grief intertwined with an unyielding hope that, against all odds, she might someday return. Those who had gathered knew the case was far from over. It echoed within every corner of their hearts. And while echoes of unanswered questions reverberated through the town, they also found solace in the resilience forged through shared loss, the ember of hope, flickering steadily, refusing to be extinguished.